Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, a baseball and Chicago Cubs podcast. My name's Kevin McCaffrey. I'm here with the other host, Adam Mamawala. What's up, Adam?
Hey, man. I feel like this is a new day. We started with an oh hello.
Yeah.
I think we've gone with the hey everybody for at least 100 episodes. So this is big news.
Hey, everybody is. I mean, there's an old Mr. Show episode where everyone's like yelling at each other for stealing jokes, and one guy's like, "I was the first one to say thank you." At the end of at the end of a set, and it's like, hey everybody was kind of my thing in the same way. In college, I said it. I didn't even notice that was exactly what I said every show opening, but then a friend of mine who was on my college TV show said when I walked out on Letterman and said, "Hey everybody," he teared up, and I was like, I didn't even know it was the thing, but. We switched it up today. Big Mulaney Kroll energy, I guess.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
I feel like it's become such a reflex at this point because when we switch off our intro, like, "Hey everybody, welcome to Away." Like sometimes I'll say "Hey everybody," and I almost start saying the rest of that. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance, where you don't really think about what's coming next. It's just part of your brain chemistry.
Yeah, it just starts spilling out. And so we're changing it up a little bit today. It is a new day, as you say. Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram if you like. If baseball is coming back, a big fat freaking maybe, then we'll have more stuff to tweet about there.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what we did last time we talked, Adam. I don't remember where we were.
I think we mostly talked about the fact that they had announced that there would be a season.
Sure, that makes sense.
All of our thoughts around, like, is this even a good idea? Is it going to happen? What is it going to look like? And I don't know if we solved those questions because they still remain, not only for us, but for the people who are directly involved with the season presented by Camping World.
Yes.
Or I think maybe it's just summer camp, like MLB summer camp. Camping World.
I mean, we've got the summer camp for the Cubs, this South Bend summer camp roster specifically. Yeah, I mean, today I really crossed the threshold into thinking the season is not going to happen because I hope it does. I'm really rooting for it. We all are. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing a baseball podcast if we didn't want baseball to happen. And I believe the players all want it to happen. And at this point, I think most of the people involved want the season to happen. But America has so many dumb motherfuckers that we have. I mean, we're the dumbest country on earth when it comes to this particular pandemic and disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's official now. We've turned America back into what it was in March in terms of numbers and ramping up. And except this time we're not even afraid of it. So it's ramping up. And so it's like the same thing it was in March when the world shut down.
Yeah.
And we just got tired of being safe. So I think yes, today I also heard Buster Olney, who listeners know I don't love necessarily. I've got some issues with him and how he covers things. But he was saying today that he was hearing from players that at least one team had a group of players making fun of the players who were being safe, who were following safety protocols. And I don't think baseball players are dumber than the average person. But I think they're pretty close to the average person. Maybe a touch smarter. But that's the thing. It's like the league is filled with human beings, and I am afraid they're going to derail it,
Yeah, I mean, the same dynamics that exist in society exist in baseball in the sense that there are varying political views. There are varying, people are taking this seriously to varying degrees. And to be honest, not only is it a health concern, but that in and of itself, I think is going to cause a rift amongst players. You know what I mean? Like that.
Absolutely.
It's not usually it doesn't have to be as much in your face as it kind of is right now in terms of everybody's beliefs about everything within a clubhouse.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about some of the baseball's racial issues in a bit here too on the show. But you hear about how a lot of teams, in terms of the cliques within the teams, you'll have like the Latin guys tend to hang out together mostly. Black players will hang out a lot. mostly, and typically with a lot of teams, that's how cliques form, and it makes sense because you speak the same language. You're raised in, if you're raised in a certain culture, you're just more likely to talk to those people more often, I think. And now I feel like we're also going to have the cliques where it's like people who believe this is a disease or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you're going to have people who are like, yeah, I'm actually trying to be safe. And then some people are like, fuck it, freedom, let's all die. So it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And I think it really makes the leadership on your team matter. Like if you have smart leaders who can peer pressure people into being smart, that's going to help a lot.
Right. Oh, man. I mean, I feel like I know the answer to this already, but I assume, like, if I said, would you rather that we get halfway through a season and then it has to stop and at least we get to watch some baseball, or would you rather they just shut it down now? What would you prefer? I know what my answer would be, but what do you think?
Well, I know, and like, I want to watch baseball. I do.
Yeah.
But if the season...
Got a lot of time to watch baseball.
I have so much time. Yeah, I have so much time to watch baseball. So in that sense, yeah, I want it to happen, but if it's not going to be a season with a champion anyway, and we're cut down to 60 games as is. So what, we're talking 30 games? We're going to get, if we get like a month of baseball, I would have fun every day of that month watching and talking baseball. So in that sense, yeah, selfishly, I would want it. But I think, like, if with the benefit of time travel, like, and knowing what's going to happen, if I somehow could travel into the future and know the season wasn't going to end with like a real season's ending, I probably would say shut it down. I'd say shut it down and and just start the labor negotiations now. Fucking,
right.
Take the time to work that out. But yeah, what would your answer be?
I guess kind of the same. I mean, I think my basic answer is I would rather just not start at all. And that's kind of I don't know how you feel about everything, and we'll get back to baseball in a second. But like in general, as things start to open up, at least in our part of the country, in New York and New Jersey where I am, like there's a part of me that's almost afraid to re-engage and start to even feel like kind of normal and kind of happy again, because I have this feeling that everything's going to stop again. And I would almost just rather it stay bad until it's not bad anymore.
Well, it's a little baseball-ish. You don't want to jinx it, too. Right. It's like, I don't want to... Yeah, I get that, too, because we've, not that we're enjoying the quarantining we're doing and the things we're not able to do. Also, I'm here in New York City where we had it the worst and actually have done a pretty good job of it. And things are somewhat safely opening up. They delayed the opening of, indoor restaurants and stuff, which I wouldn't have been doing that anyway right now. I don't think so. But it's just like it's frustrating, and we'll get off this in at least this part of it in a second, because that's all we've talked about for months, even socially. But we knew how to kill this thing. South Korea knew how to kill it. We just needed to do 3 months of not being fucking idiots, and we couldn't do it. And we've decided to not keep trying to not be fucking idiots. We're just done and leaning into the fucking idiot part of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is like the things about America that we love as Americans, which is like we get to do whatever we want most of the time. That's great until it's not. And I think that also makes us uniquely unqualified to handle this well, which is scary.
I mean, just with masks in general, but the idea that wearing a mask is not freedom, like, because, freedom is awesome about America. You're allowed to not kill other people as part of your freedom, like it's not, literally doing something smart is not the opposite of freedom. It's not even smart. It's just like basic. So, it's frustrating.
Ooh, t-shirt idea. Every catcher in the league can get involved, but I would love for Wilson Contreras. It's just a Contreras shirt with him and his catcher's gear, and it just says wear a mask, and he's just got his catcher's mask on.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's get the catchers doing PSAs for this shit. Wilson would design it up.
We have to wear masks all the time, and they're heavier and they're uncomfortable. And
the NHL, everyone's wearing a mask there. I mean, everyone gets it. But people, cut me off if there's anything else to tag on there. But there's some players have started opting out, so we have a little bit of news there.
Yeah, let's just so that we don't get too grim too soon. Let's start with talking about the Cubs roster that they released.
Sure.
And proceed as if everything's gonna be great.
Maybe baseball. Yeah, sure. So the Cubs announced they're allowed to have 60 people on the roster. They have 50 as of right now. And that's not the Cubs like punting on 10 spots. This is leaving spots open to possibly sign other people. Because some players have been released in recent days. I don't know if he's signed, if he's been signed up anywhere else, but I saw Billy Hamilton was released, and that was the kind of guy, especially with expanded rosters starting with 30 players. I mean, you can spare a spot. Ian Miller.
Expanded rosters, Billy Hamilton's available, and they're starting with a runner on second in the 10th inning. Has there ever been a better time?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So when you see the Cubs have used up 50 of their 60 slots, that doesn't mean the other 10 won't get used. But that's what we're sitting at right now. And
who were the big snubs for you?
That's a good question. Snubs. I don't know if this is a snub as much as Cubs' second round pick of this year, Burrell Caraway, is a straight relief pick, a left-handed pitcher who's touched 100, sits more like 97-ish for the most part. With a hammer curveball, and the spin rates on the fastball and the curve are just bananas. Like it would have been top 20 in the major leagues with both of those two pitches. If he was in the majors. So this is a guy who could move very fast and wouldn't even be throwing that many innings. So I thought there was a chance he'd at least be in South Bend. But they left him off right now, which I'm also fine with. He was just drafted. We want to chill out, get him in the lab. That's all fine. That was the main one I noted. There's a couple other guys who I think I just would have liked to have seen able to get more game time since we don't have a minor leagues right now.
Right. Was Zach Short one of those guys for you? Or?
Yeah, that's true. I think Zach Short probably is the omission that I think makes the least sense to me. Because there's if Javi gets hurt, God forbid, the Cubs just don't really have many major league quality defensive shortstops, and Zach Short was voted the best defender in AAA at one point. So I did, and he's a guy who takes walks and has some power too. Leaving Zach Short off, I think you'd have to think he'd be one of the first guys to get called up once the Cubs figure out how they're filling out their 60.
Now, I assume you're looking at the same list that I am, but there are a number of players that have asterisks next to their name, and that signifies not on 40-man roster. Why is Kipnis one of those people?
That's a good question, and
he's not injured or anything, is he?
No, and I thought he had been added to the 40 roster, but it's also. I mean, I should know this already, but there is a chance if he was on some sort of veteran split deal where it's a major league deal if he makes the club minor league, but then a high paying minor league contract if he doesn't.
Right.
So that could be the case. But yeah, that is, if that's not a typo, I could have sworn he was on the 40-man roster already. But.
Yeah, because I think we were all assuming that he would be on the opening day roster, right? There's no reason to think he wouldn't have been. Jason
Kipnis, I believe, is projected to be the main starter at second base right now. That's where it was trending in spring training uno this year. He seemed like that was the case. But yeah, no, this is he is not officially on the 40-man roster yet. So that just is what it is. Yeah. So, but I listened to an interview that Jim Deshaies gave, I believe, on The Score this weekend, and Deshaies was saying that Kipnis, from what he understood, Kipnis was set to be the main starter at second. So I think we can still count on that being the case.
So when you look at this list, and this can either be a name from the 40-man or from the so named taxi squad. Just for the hell of it, give me a name that excites you. Somebody who maybe isn't known that well, who could make an impact.
As far as someone who's not known as well, I would say, I mean, so Dakota Mekkes is a guy we've mentioned before, and this offseason made his biggest mark as, I would say, the main co-host of the Compound podcast. It seemed like Ian Happ's your Johnny Carson, and Dakota Mekkes was the Ed McMahon. He was, or Conan Andy Richter, if you will. And Nico.
Seems like a big lovable oaf.
Yeah, and he seems to have a good sense of humor. He seems like a fun guy, and he's the kind of player that I think is just fun because he has several outlier characteristics. He's very big. He's super tall. He's a big man. He throws kind of hard, but not as hard as you'd think. He can touch mid-90s, but he also his release point is funky, and he takes he strides a long way to the plate, so his stuff plays up. He didn't have as good a year last year as he had since he came into the organization, but he did nothing but dominate to an incredible degree up to that point. So I think this is a guy in Dakota Mekkes that we could see getting some real outs. I was interested to see Christopher Maurel on the roster, who's a guy who's just an extreme athlete, incredible defense at third, could definitely play some short, but he's young and he's kind of raw. So it was interesting to see him included. And Brennan Davis, obviously, arguably the Cubs' top prospect, him and Miguel Amaya were both included there. So it's interesting to see Brennan Davis there too. But did anyone stand out to you here on the list?
Not necessarily. No, I was more just. I feel like I always kind of defer to you on prospecty stuff. I mean, I guess I would be interested to see if there would end up being a spot for Marquez at some point, just because of how exciting his stuff is. And I'm kind of, I don't want to say I've given up, but it's one of those like fool me once, shame on you. So, you know what I mean? Like with Dylan Maples, I want to believe that things will be different, and he's finally able to harness that stuff. But I'll give you Marquez for my guy. I would be excited to make some appearances.
Marquez is a good one. I mean, because I don't think it was necessarily a sure thing that he would be included here. You want to be careful with his arm. He's a young guy, 6'4", lefty who's hit as high as 102. But putting him on this list, I mean, they're still grooming him as a starter for right now. But yeah, I mean, you could see that big arm coming in to face a couple lefties late in the season. And I think with him, Brennan Davis and Miguel Amaya, those are, and then if you're talking Nico Horner already, obviously, those are the Cubs' top four prospects, and they're all here. So even though you would think Marquez, Amaya, and Davis are a couple years away from the majors, maybe not. So that is something to look at. One thing I do think was interesting was that Adbert Alzolay was listed on the South Bend roster as opposed to the Wrigley summer camp. And I mean, there's just a shit ton of pitchers listed for the Wrigley Field summer camp. So Alzolay on the outside looking in there was interesting to me. When we're looking at the major league roster, has Rex Brothers, Jarrell Cotton, Danny Holtzen, who I really like and would like to see up on at the major league level. Trevor McGill, Dylan Maples.
Dan Winkler is kind of a surprise.
Yeah, James Norwood up there, Colin Ray, Casey Sadler, Ryan Tepera. Yeah, I mean, so to not see Alzolay with that group, I am a little curious about what the thinking is there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, to be honest, there's some names on the South Bend roster I've never heard in my life. Like, I don't know who Jason Adam is. I don't know who Michael Rucker is. Is it Juan Gamez? Am I saying that right?
I don't know, because I was going to say that is the one guy I don't know. I do not know who Juan Gamez or Gamez is here, but the rest of those names, Jason Adam is a guy who's had some major league time, middle reliever, but high velocity, big stuff, great spin rate. Michael Rucker's a guy whose stuff has taken a leap in the past year or so. So some interesting guys. And Christopher Maurel, again, like I said, is a guy who is raw, but his defense has been compared to Javi, and his defensive highlight reel is just a lot of fun, like a lot of weird shit that you don't see guys do, a lot of jumping in weird ways. And I doubt we see him at the major league level, but seeing him included here tells you the Cubs are really, really high on that guy's
Yeah.
talent.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I believe they report tomorrow to Wrigley. Am I wrong about that?
I don't.
Today, I should say, if this is coming out Wednesday.
When this airs, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, but sorry if I'm dumb.
Yeah.
We'll find out, I guess.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to move. It's good if we're getting into the spring training with opening day being in just a cup, theoretically in a few weeks, you know.
And when is opening day again?
So I believe the Yankees play the first game a day before everybody else. Let's see. I just want to make sure on the date. So it'll begin July 23rd, but I believe most teams start on the 24th.
Okay.
So yeah,
it would be nice. I am all for baseball as long as it can be safe and not be taking resources away from more important things. I don't know if that's the case, but that's not for us to figure out, I guess.
No, yeah, I mean we're going to see if it happens. And to the players who have opted out as of the time as of the time of this recording, 4 players have opted out. Ryan Zimmerman is one, Joe Ross, Mike Leake, and Ian Desmond are the 4. So all names you know. These aren't these aren't fringe guys. These are major leaguers.
Is Joe Ross still on the Nats, or where is he now?
I had thought so. Let's see. We've got, Joe Ross is still with the Nats.
And where's Leake these days? Is he in like Seattle or something?
He's in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, Arizona, I mean, they've got it under control there, so he should.
Yeah, Arizona's fine. Florida's fine. Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, obviously we're seeing it with the NBA, but like that was a pitch at some point to have like the Arizona and Florida leagues essentially.
Right. And that's a whole other thing where it's like what the NBA is doing with the bubble is probably as close to as safe as you can do this. And MLB's, traveling to all the different cities. But
at least baseball's played outside. That's a good thing, right?
I'd
rather be outside than in a bubble.
It actually is outside. It actually is a good thing that it is outside. That makes a difference from what we know of COVID. That makes a significant difference to be outside. So that's a very, very good thing.
So for those of you who missed it, and I don't know if do you want to talk about Ian Desmond a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you lead us with that.
Well, so he posted something on Instagram yesterday, and read it if you're a baseball fan, regardless of what your political views are. Although, if your political views don't align with ours, you're probably so annoyed with us that you don't listen to this anymore. But anyway, highly recommend reading what Desmond has to say. But I guess the condensed version of it is that he's kind of taking a broad look at baseball's place in society, the diversity or lack of diversity within baseball, the lack of opportunities for disadvantaged kids to play baseball, the fact that it's kind of disappearing in those communities in a way that hadn't been the case probably 20, 30 years ago or when he was playing Little League. It's kind of become an elitist sport, which it has. It's very expensive to be on these traveling teams, the equipment, all the, going all over the place. And that if you look at the stats in baseball, the percentages are not pretty when you look at the number of African-American GMs, number of African-American managers, number of black players is, I think, 8%. There are a lot of reasons for that. But the bottom line and what he got to ultimately was, he's got, I think, 3 or 4 kids with another on the way. And he feels that he's needed at home to be with his family during a pandemic and to answer the kinds of questions that his kids are asking him. He's mixed race. And I think that's the bottom line. It's more important for me to be with my family and be engaged and be having these conversations than it would be for me to take part in the season.
Yeah, and it's really hard to argue with anything that he's saying there. And to me, we've heard about the decline in the number of black players in the league for a long time, and I think the root of what's most problematic about that is what you said about how expensive it's gotten and how expensive the sport of baseball has gotten, where, you know, sports like soccer and basketball haven't as much, you know. And the travel teams can cost a kid $10,000 now over the course of a summer to just travel around. I mean, it's insane, and it doesn't, and that doesn't only affect you know, Black kids growing up, but it disproportionately does, you know, and it's not good. Everyone it affects, and I think to me the most inexplicable, or not even inexplicable, but indefensible thing is the number of Black managers, Black owners, and also Latin, by the way. Like 27% of the league is Latin, and we have 4 managers of Latin descent, you know, out of 27%. It is a lot of white guys. It is a whole lot of white guys at the top, at the higher levels. Like, yes, there is a lower number than there was, certainly, I mean, back in the 70s, but like lower number of Black players. But to me, the bigger problem is Black coaches, Black managers, Black general managers. There's no excuse to not see more of that now. And I mean, when you talk about the Black managers in the league, you basically just talk about Dusty Baker getting hired over and over again. Almost no one else. It's like that. Dusty has, I mean, God bless Dusty. He has had a ton of success. Obviously, as Cubs fans, we have a complicated relationship with him. But Dusty's biggest achievement may be cracking the what is usually a white guy thing of being mediocre and rehirable, like where the Jeff Fisher deal, where you just don't really win, but you just keep getting rehired and staying on forever. And almost no other Black managers are getting a shot, and it's inexplicable.
Totally, and I think it does start with kind of making the game accessible to the youth. If the whole point of what baseball is trying to do, which they're failing at miserably, is to attract younger viewers and decrease that median age, the way to do it is to get people involved in the game. And Desmond makes a great point. He asks, why does Major League Baseball have to have a specific youth baseball affiliation with RBI? Why can't we support teaching the game to all kids, but especially those in underprivileged communities? Why aren't accessible, affordable youth sports viewed as an essential opportunity to affect kids' development, as opposed to money-making propositions and recruiting chances? It's hard to wrap your head around it. And I think he makes a great point. And he began what he was saying by referring to, you know, being back home and going to kind of just walk around these fields that he used to play at that are what he considers to be some of the best years of his life, and that they're like in disrepair at this point. And that kind of speaks to where baseball is at right now, and the kinds of people who are playing baseball and have it available to them to really play it in a competitive way.
Yeah, it speaks to where baseball's at. It speaks to where America's at in general too, where the money and the opportunities just keep funneling towards a smaller and smaller percentage at the top. And you know, we have a disappearing middle class, and the lower class gets extremely fucked. And this is sports and otherwise, but you know, you can really follow the money, and it affects baseball too. You know, and Ian Desmond, by the way, is a guy who is one of those players who other players talk about as a high quality clubhouse guy. You know, the Nationals players talked a lot about losing him and the effect that had on their clubhouse too. So he's obviously a very smart, thoughtful guy who, and it's a well written piece, and it's on Instagram, and you know, now it's been reported plenty of other places now, but it's a good read, and I'd say he's not wrong about anything he's saying, and if anything, it makes me think that Ian Desmond, obviously staying home, that's the right choice for him and his family now, but Ian Desmond might also have a pretty important role after his playing days are over too.
I hope he does, and I think the thing that bums me out is that when you look at what the NBA has done and continues to do, to me, the NBA is by far the best run league. Easily. And it's not even particularly close.
No, I don't think so.
In terms of social activism, in terms of letting players be themselves, in terms of saying the right thing without it seeming forced or without waiting 2 weeks to say it, they always seem to be at the forefront of that. And I think Stern was a great commissioner. I think Silver has been an incredible commissioner. And think of the difference when I say the names David Stern and Adam Silver, and then I say Bud Selig and Rob Manfred. Think of how that makes your stomach feel.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be like that. And when they're talking about what they're doing with the bubble league that we alluded to for the NBA, where players will get to have a customized, something on the back of their jersey that has a message of some sort, or like promotes social activism that literally Black Lives Matter is going to be written on the court. And you think of if someone in baseball even suggested that, an individual team, what the outcry would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of, I understand that there's a ton of money involved. And I understand that it's no different than Facebook being wishy-washy about like censoring stuff because they know what their base is. I think baseball also knows what its base is. And I think that's where this comes from. And it makes me sad as a baseball fan.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Wondering if baseball's positioning and hesitancy on any of this comes from that knowing what your base is. But also, we got to look at NASCAR, who banned the Confederate flag, and NASCAR, every driver on the top series came out in support of Black Lives Matter. So you would think, if
NASCAR can do it, I think maybe
NASCAR can do it. You've got the Premier League. Every team that I saw, I don't know if it was literally every team, but every team I saw for the I think it was weekend before last, took a knee at the beginning of each game and had Black Lives Matter written on the back of their jerseys in the English Premier League for soccer. So when we're here in America and a mixed race player is telling you all the problems that Black players and potential Black players and Black kids face trying to get into this game growing up, and Black adults face trying to get in positions of power in this game, listen up. Go check out Ian Desmond's stuff.
Yeah, check out. I mean, it's not hard to just Google Ian Desmond, but his Instagram handle is @I_Des DEZ20. And it was it's a hell of a read. And there was a line that he said specifically that is something that I've said almost like word for word, and I'm not comparing my experience as a mixed race half Indian person to his experience as a Black man, but he said like word for word, being mixed race, it's this situation where like you feel like you're fitting in everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. And I think that's it's a very concise way to describe it. But I think for people who are not mixed race, it's hard to explain that feeling of like, it's not even that I feel discriminated against, it's that I never get to walk into a room and everybody there is like me.
Sure, yeah, that it's just that you're automatically on this team.
Right.
Yeah, right. And I mean, my parents come from families that are both North and South Irish, so I understand as well. It's quite a mix. Really, just never fitting in. I think that is a good way to put it. That, I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with this too. And Ian Desmond talked about the one thing he also mentioned was how many like sexist and homophobic and racist things you hear in a major league clubhouse. And from people I know who are biracial, if you can pass for one, you end up hearing some of the stuff that they think you're okay with, don't you?
Some of the most racist stuff I've ever heard is stuff that was said in front of me, having no idea what my background was.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that people are like seeking out being racist towards Indian people, but like in the way that there's just like casual shitty racism.
Yeah, it happens.
Like, people will just say stuff, and then sometimes, depending on the situation, I'll be like, "Oh, well, my dad's Indian," so, and that kind of brings the conversation to a halt. But no, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we're covered for this week, and we're just kind of buckling up and hoping baseball and baseball keeps moving towards happening, and the world keeps, or doesn't keep, but maybe swerves towards survival here sometime soon. Would be cool. Unless you have anything else, I think I'm good to wrap this up.
Nice. Oh, well, I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but I I have added another podcast to my repertoire.
Yes, tell us. It's sports.
It is sports. Yes, it's a basketball podcast called Horse Hoops. I think it's at Horse Hoops on Instagram and horse_hoops on Twitter, but Google Horse Hoops. And it's with a friend of mine, Mike Schubert, and the whole concept is kind of make basketball fun and accessible for people who don't really necessarily have to know anything about basketball to enjoy it. So that'll be, I think the first episode that I'm on will be this coming Monday.
Nice.
So we got that's Monday, every other Monday. So every Wednesday here and every other Monday.
Horse Hoops. Check it out. Get more Mama Walla in your life.
That's what everybody needs.
Yeah, man.
People are clamoring for it.
Yeah, they're freaking out about it. They can't stay home. They're freaking out about it.
Oh, God.
Thanks for listening, everybody. At Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll be back next Wednesday to talk more about whatever is happening in this basement.
Yes, we will. Wear a mask.
Yep, wear a mask. Thanks.